Do you know it was like 1977 when women could have a credit card by themselves? Yes.
Really?
Yes.
They're allowed to have credit cards?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
I'll get that clarified. Welcome to the neighborhood, Lauren.
Welcome to my neighborhood.
Yeah, right? We're neighbors for a day.
Yeah.
We're in the Coachella Valley as
awesome.
neighbors.
Thank you so much for coming down here.
Yeah, yeah.
So cool.
We've had a couple conversations about what you do and everything, but Michael and I were driving up here, and you and I kind of talked about it when we had drinks down in Laguna. And we'll get to a little more of who you are, the store, and all that in a minute. But the catalyst for all this, you're a doer, you know, and the sort of civic-minded thing, right? Public service kind of thing, and looking out for people and participating in your community and making your community big, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not your community. Like, you participate in a very large community. And we were talking about, like, where does that come from? You know what I mean? Did your parents do it? Were they doers also? Like, my mom was. My mom worked, we were talking, my mom worked for the Interfaith Shelter for Battered Women in Costa Mesa. And then she was at Share Ourselves, SOS. And so we, as kids, we kind of knew about it, right?
Is that where we volunteered? Was it the Interfaith Shelter?
I totally remember.
I think it was. Remember that?
And
the homeless shelter?
I can actually picture it. It was long. I was talking about it. I can picture it's off 17th Street, right?
Yeah.
And it's long.
Yeah.
And the apartment buildings there. Yeah.
I think his mom was the director of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was the director of that
I know.
facility.
Isn't that wild?
So I
Yeah.
know that some of it
That was with you. I'm like, I would.
Yeah,
he
do
told me on the
something
way
there.
up.
But that was
I-
my first introduction to any kind of, like, you know, volunteering, doing anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And then you've also, though, had nonprofit experience and things like
After,
that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But where did it start for you?
Well, for me, I think my activism is sort of what I call it. I mean, more than like giving back or community building, because it's sort of in rejection to how things are that I've been active. It's a justice issue for me, sort of has been. It's not a charity thing. It's that there's been so much injustice. And so that's really where it's come from. And I kind of think, like, wonder where this came from. And I've sort of been trying to figure it out, or the things I sort of land on when I talk about it. So I think I was grown up really originally, like really sheltered. This bubble that we grew up in Irvine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just this. It was a planned community. I mean,
Right.
it was literally fake in some ways, right? I mean, it was so.
Yeah, for sure.
And little houses on the, and so I don't know. I was really naive. I just didn't think that there was that much suffering in the world. I just thought, and one of the things growing up Jewish and learning about the Holocaust since I was young, I sort of had this thing in my mind that level of injustice was a thing of the past, and the world was a different place and beautiful. And I mean, I knew there was inequality in the United States, and that people, there was hunger in Africa, and I mean, just a really superficial level of understanding. But I had a huge epiphany, and thankfully for the ignorance of my parents and growing up. Okay, well, I'll get to it. So this is hilarious. And I'm spacing on the name of the Spanish teacher.
In seventh grade?
In University High School. No, not Mr.
Rice.
Not Mrs. Graham, but the other
not
one.
Schramm. In high school.
Mrs. Rice?
It was Mrs. Graham.
Is a man.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
A man.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I'm just spacing on his name. Anyway,
Yeah.
in that Spanish class, he was able to convince our parents that we could go on a Spanish field trip to Brazil.
Get out.
Yeah. and Nightitch.
Nightitch.
Fred.
Yes, Fred Night. And we were able to go to Rio de Janeiro as 16-year-olds
Get out.
to practice our Spanish.
Did you party?
I was like,
Okay. You're old enough now. It doesn't matter.
Yes, of course.
okay.
I mean, so,
That's an amazing trip in high school.
yeah, we did. The way I describe it, because, your memory over time, like, creates different stories, whether it actually happened that way.
Real
or
quick, what year was that?
probably
your junior year?
Yeah. Probably junior year, or maybe senior year. I don't really remember. I know it's,
no,
I was
16
a
wouldn't be
cheerleader.
that. Yeah, it would be.
Junior year.
You were a
Sophomore,
cheerleader?
junior.
You were my buddy, so you
Yeah.
know.
Oh
you
my
know a
gosh,
lot
I
of what-
forgot
Right.
you were a
And my
cheerleader.
boyfriend, by the way, high school
Yeah.
boyfriend. So.
I forgot you were a cheerleader.
Yeah.
We'll
so
get to
that's
that.
okay. So that's like
We'll get to that.
Growing up in perfect Irvine
Yeah.
and cheerleader, the popular boyfriend,
Right.
la 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 la. But then junior year, we got to go to Rio, and I was just shocked. I was blown away to see children hungry in the street,
Right.
being spoiled. White kids from Orange County sitting and drinking beer in the shops in the cafes in Rio, and kids. And I can actually still remember this girl. She was probably like 7 years old, and she was carrying a baby on her back, and she was begging for bread, and while we were, having beer. And I can still picture that, and that just rocked my world. Like,
Was that the first time you'd seen it?
completely- Huh?
Was that the first time you'd seen anything like
Poverty, yeah, and poverty in real life, yeah.
that? Gotcha.
I mean, isn't that incredible to have grown up to be 16 years old and never really been exposed? I mean,
Yeah. Good and bad, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Having
Right.
kids now, not
Right.
want them to be too sure.
yeah, and maybe who knows if it was
Right.
me shutting off myself or whatever, but there was, I mean, you're grown up, you're brought up, and your education relies on, your schools, your families, your community that educate you. You don't, and so, and I'm, certainly not to blame my parents, but this was a a beautiful community they want us to grow in and have a good education and have
Right.
a great upbringing. So this is in no way, my parents had experienced, poverty to a certain extent when they were younger. They taught in schools in Newark, New Jersey. I mean, they were well aware, but I was growing up in the sheltered place, as many of us were in Irvine. And so, so when I saw this in Brazil, it was just a total shock to me and an injustice, because that's really how I took it. I'm like, how can this be happening? How can we be living like this? How can everyone be okay with the fact that there's children on the street fending for themselves? Like, this is so not right. Like, this is not going to end well for anybody that you have, children growing up on their own. This is, so it was mind-blowing for me at that particular age. Right? We're really impressionable at that age. And so when I came back and I was trying to inform people about what I had discovered,
That was
what
my
I
next
had
question.
found out, and people did not care.
Right. You sound the alarm and there's no reaction.
Yeah, like that's just how the world is, Lauren. It's the world is unfair, blah blah blah. I was like, this is not acceptable.
Did you get that response from your parents?
I don't think I got that response from my parents. I mean, I'm trying to remember.
Right.
My parents, well, I'll just say this as we go through all of this
Uh-huh.
talking. My parents have supported me and
Yep.
my undertakings and my activism wholeheartedly
That's awesome.
my entire life. So,
Big shout out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Barb and Till.
Right.
you.
Go Barbara Till.
And we'll talk about that. And like they follow. They have, when I did go back to Brazil to go to college, they followed me there. They made sure that everything, like wherever I decided to take my activism, they're always there to support me. So
You went to college in Brazil?
I did. I went back to college
I didn't know that.
just for a semester. But yeah, so I came back, and that was the general feeling I got. And again, I might be called out on this story because it might not always be actually how it played out, but this is my memory of it.
Right.
And so at the time, I was cheerleader,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just started questioning everything, coming back and like, well, if that is happening and no one's told me about that, then I was
hell else
really
is going
having,
on?
Right.
I was really struggling with it. I started to have stomach aches, stress, and like, I'm carrying this burden. Like, how can I live in this fake place with like people who care about new cars and their clothes and their shoes, and there's like kids on the street. Like, I couldn't reconcile the two. And then putting on a cheerleading uniform was like, fuck this.
By the way, we're going to edit that picture in. We're going to find that picture in and edit it in.
Michael, you remember.
But that's when we met.
Right
about that.
Right
yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
when
I mean,
started to
we
change.
we knew each other since 7th grade.
Yeah.
But that's when we.
Well,
kinda
that's when I started to
hanging out.
know you as well. Was probably when we were 15, 16, 17 years old in that same time.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you and I started hanging out
Right,
too.
exactly.
That was that moment.
That's probably I went from the preppy
Right.
club to the punks.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. Yeah, like what else are we not hearing about, and stuff.
Yeah.
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 But I
and
remember the
that's-
stomach problems. I remember all the stuff that was
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we started, I think it was Marks was involved too, and we started that club, Students for Social Responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember Mr.
Did you
Ives?
really?
Yeah, we started a club, Students for Social Responsibility. We got called.
It's a good name, right? Like, I wasn't
Yeah.
doing anything. I wasn't doing anything close to that.
Except when you turn the SSR into like a double lightning bolt, it all of a sudden is not cool at all. Which is what happened accidentally.
No way.
Yeah, do you remember this at all?
No.
Oh. So we did
We have graphic designers.
yeah.
Right.
we threw a punk benefit. Well, we called it punk, but it was like Sugar Ray kind of like
Yeah.
it was Murphy.
We'll edit that too.
Yeah. Murphy
Cargus,
Cargus,
yeah.
whatever his band is. I remember we did a song together called about the Sandinista Revolution.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and I really hope this is all true. I remember it this way, and we threw a benefit for Nicaraguan refugees, and
What year are we talking?
this must have been the senior year.
Oh, in high school?
Yeah, this is in high school. You didn't come to the
I might have.
But I remember, I remember Murphy was hanging around that. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember what band it was. If it was like Shrinky Dinks or whatever, one of those things, Don't remember.
Yeah. So we did this fundraiser, and then we printed flyers to promote it, and we put them on windshields around Irvine, and the logo was a double S. So it was like Nazis for Nicaragua, for communists.
Nazis for death.
Come to the high school dance. Come all Nazis and
Listen,
communists. to the
Come
high-
on,
Reggae.
Nazis and communists. When did you realize? Later? Like years later?
I don't know. It was not that much later. I think probably right
That's so
around the
funny.
time we did it. Someone probably was like, "What the heck?" And then I remember the cops. We were required to have one cop per whatever students, and they were so worried that we were going to have mayhem there, so we had to like pay from our proceeds for an extra cop. And then I remember fighting about that. Like, I'll take you to court if you're going to take our money from these kids who are trying to raise money for Nicaraguan refugees. How do you think the court's going to like that? Go to your stupid cops.
So wait,
But it was
so
cool.
at that moment, you have the wherewithal to be raising. What did you do with the funds? Did you actually send it?
I don't remember. I know I didn't keep it. I'll tell you that. I'm sure. It was probably like $5 at the end of it.
By the time you paid off the
No.
police,
$13.50.
I mean, it might have been like, I'm sure I found a legitimate.
Right, I'm sure you did.
I
I'm sure
wouldn't
you
have-
did.
There's no way you kept it.
Yeah, that's funny. Just like a random
I'm
check
pretty
to
sure I
Nicaragua, to Nicaragua, from Lauren, 3862.
SSR.
2 lightning bolts. Oh, that's crazy.
I'm sure it was like some organization that was helping refugees.
Right.
I'm sure it was legit.
So did it go from the SSR into was Give a Beat? Is that the first nonprofit you started?
No.
What
this
was
is
the first one?
second. So I did work for 10 years. I don't know how much I really want to talk a whole lot about the first nonprofit because it's kind of triggering. We had some difficulties there, but I'll just kind of talk about it a little bit. But we flash forward, like got into the music scene and recognized the power of music by bringing people together around dance music. And at the time, I was having this sort of epiphany about my calling, which was many, many years later than high school. At that time, I was recognizing that the AIDS orphan pandemic was exploding, and so, I mean, sort of imagining a better world where, just like that girl on the street in Rio, you know, that there was all these children being orphaned by AIDS, and having this very grandiose visions of like, what if we could like create the next Live Aid, but for these children who are growing up on their own, and bring people together and build, you know, sustainable, like homes for children. And we could sort of embrace, like together we could raise, you know, provide for these children and teach them to protect resources in a sustainable way, and maybe they would save the planet someday.
Right.
Like that was my dream.
And that was like 98, 99? Like
I started to visualize using the music to do something really big like that. But I didn't start to kind of make it real until about 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2002 I went to the World Summit on Sustainable Development, the UN Summit in Johannesburg.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Off topic, but not. I'm finding myself, now I was telling Michael, really struggling with just my mental health as far as what just happened and where things are going, right? Without getting too political. Just the idea that like a lot of it doesn't seem fixable or anything like that. And you've been doing this for so long, just giving a shit. Let's just put it there, right? About other people and other things outside of yourself. How do you just take care of yourself? Like it would seem like it would stress you out all the time. Like where do you find peace in that? Because it seems at times, I know that when you're in the middle of doing something, you just do it and you just keep doing it, and that sort of blocks some of those feelings out, you know, or whatever it might be. But it must be overwhelming, like it's hard to point the ship in the right direction sometimes. You know, there's so many things going on, more than ever right now.
Yeah, well, right now is different because it's purposely giving us so many different things to think about to make it so that we're confused and we don't know, we can't do anything.
Right.
That's all by design. But
right.
But I mean, I think most activists would say similar, and I'm not saying, you know, who I'm talking to right now are activists. We each have our different things, but you find your thing, and it's actually, I would be way more stressed, I think, if I wasn't if I didn't have my calling, if I didn't have my thing I was doing. I hope that keeps me healthy. I hope that the fact that I've found an outlet and found purpose on this planet keeps me healthy. I actually sometimes think about that. I'm like, is my body, like, what is stress? What does other people's stress feel like compared to my stress? Because, you know, and my partner will say, I mean, I'm working all the time, you know, and there's never enough time in the day, and balancing and juggling so many things. But I wonder if bottling up your anxiety about the world and not having an avenue and not feeling like you're making a difference, I feel like that must be more stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just put your head in the sand and really not be worrying about anything, but I just find that hard to believe.
I guess I meant, we're like, there's, like, the kids are still starving, right? And there's all these things going on, but Give a Beat is very specifically geared towards people in prison, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the program works. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But like, does all this other stuff, because you're working on this, you worry less? That's what I mean. And it's a hard question. I don't mean to like make you worry about things, but I'm just like, with kids, I'm struggling now to talk to them about things and how things get better and how you look to the future and what's going on. Cause I don't know sometimes, you know, and when they were younger, it was easier. you know?
Mhm.
And as we go
For sure.
further here, it's so complicated. When Michael and I talk
I
about
don't know.
who we can find and what we can do, we always go, it's endless.
Right.
There's people everywhere that need help.
Yeah.
You know, and our whole thing is this sort of grassroots thing where we can come and like just help on a very individual basis. You know, and I think that helps me, knowing that there's no real limit to what I can do. I can go find someone that has an organization like yours, or I can find a Spanish-speaking podcast in Hood River for the Latinx community, and I can help there. And then I can wander over here and do a guy that's taking wounded warriors fishing. You know what I mean? I can kind of keep going in different places, but it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. I mean, lately, I've been feeling like I just want to make the biggest impact that I can personally make with my resources and my vision or my like gut feeling or gift. And I say this, I want to be very modest in all of this. Everyone has gifts, so I'm not saying I have gifts, but we all have something different. And I think there's a couple things that I do have a knack for. I think that I can motivate people and attract people who also want to do good and make change. And I get to surround myself by awesome people.
Right.
Like that's amazing. Like I feel
That's
at
so much
times
of
when
it.
I felt isolated, like growing up in high school, that what gave me stomach aches. Wow, this conversation is really interesting. I'm like discovering stuff right now. That was stressful. I literally had pre-ulcer conditions because I felt alone in feeling this injustice, and why am I the only one seeing this?
Part of what we talk about a lot is mental health, right? And
Yeah.
and it's not just like we're not diagnosing. Michael
Yeah.
always says we're not magicians, we're not
Yeah.
doctors, but it's the idea of what we do to take care of ourselves, right? And what you do. And it's interesting because music, right? I mean, Bob Marley said it, right? Music makes the world go round, right? And so that's that thing for you, right? That's sort of that connective tissue to people and different things. And
I see it, and it's a tool. I mean, it's utilizing the power of music to do these things. You know,
Right.
It's like, yeah.
So let's talk about Give a Beat, because I don't know exactly how it works. So why don't you, for our fan, we have a fan, by the way, for our fan out there,
A fan?
just one. It's my wife.
Oliver.
It's just my wife. It's Oliver and my wife. We have two.
My wife's not sure.
Yeah,
yet.
sometimes
She's
my
like,
wife's on the fence.
I don't know. I'm on the fence.
When she saw Melania, she went to the fence. All right. She was, well, just tell us what it is.
Okay. Oh, my head's in so many different places right
Okay,
now.
we can go back.
No. I'm just
Take us where your head is.
I'm just trying to take a moment and just
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about what I want to say next, because it is so many different things. So, I think the level of racial injustice is kind of like everything. I mean, I don't know if I can say this to this audience, but like,
Say it.
white men have like totally screwed up the world.
Say it.
And I mean, look at where we are. Like, this was indigenous land. And I mean, how is it that we're on this land and we're kicking currently? I mean, of course we have insanity right now, but like kicking people out because they're immigrants. And I'm sorry, where are you from? Where's your family from?
Oh yeah, Hungary,
Hungary?
England.
Mexico.
Mexico?
And my mom's a total whitey, so England.
Yeah.
I think she's Welsh or something. She's like see-through white.
Yeah, we're. I mean, we're Eastern European, Poland, Romania. So it's just, this was indigenous land, and we stole millions of Africans and brought them here, and in the most horrific, most insane, inhumane conditions for hundreds of years, and built all this. I mean, none of it belongs to us.
Right.
Like, it's crazy. And so, and then, so just so many things, like that's the foundation. Like, it's rotten. The whole foundation is rotten. So, yeah, and everything came after that. So, you know, you can go back, you know, there's slavery, and then, you know, there's the Jim Crow laws. And I mean, I'm moving through it very quickly,
of
which
course,
is
of
how they
course.
teach it in school.
Right.
It's like a
If they do.
chapter in a book. Yeah.
If they teach it.
Yeah.
Right.
And all the discrimination and all the, and so then came the prisons. You know, they created, it became like illegal to do anything that Black people would do just by living, you know. So they created laws for the purpose after slavery, you know, and they created laws just to lock people up because they needed free labor.
Have you seen 13th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Okay. So, viewers,
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
watch 13th. They can tell it much better than.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, I just think it's like everything, you know. So, and now we have, for all these years, we've had mass incarceration. You know, doesn't matter what party it is, everyone's been complicit all this time,
And I think the institutionalization of those people,
Yeah.
right, and the recidivism rates, and how people
Yeah.
just end up being stuck there
yeah,
in those systems.
Intentionally, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're just
Yeah, I mean, tell me what you guys know a little bit about this, because it's so. I mean, I know,
About what?
I know we're talking.
you can just feel free to talk.
I mean,
we can do
just
whatever.
I'm kind of curious what you know about mass incarceration, or because and you've seen 13th, and you've talked about On Purpose. So I'm just curious,
mean,
like, what is your awareness, or
I mean, outside of being incarcerated?
you were incarcerated
Several times.
several times?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Not
know that.
never prison,
Yeah,
but in the juvenile facilities,
Oh,
and then
you were arrested
in
when
county
you were-
jails.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
when we were growing up.
5 times. I think 5 or 6 times.
All right, nice
Something.
job.
Oh my Lord! Do we just high five going to jail? That's hilarious.
Breaking, that happened in Irvine.
Yeah, it happened in Irvine, and then yeah.
I don't know. I'm high fiving him.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you for breaking, being a nonconformist, I guess.
It's silly,
Okay.
but what do you mean by what we know? I mean, other than being aware of what happens in this country, and my dad was in prison, and you know, just people like my uncles, both my uncles. One of my uncles died in prison.
I remember
So-
we talked about this a little
Yeah,
bit,
so,
but just for
I
the
think-
sake of this conversation.
Well, I
it's
think
interesting.
because
Yeah.
the assumption was that we all grew up in Irvine, right? We all came from the same sort
Yeah.
of environment.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Right.
right? You know, I don't think you did necessarily either. But
That's a good point. I should probably stop generalizing about growing up so privileged in Irvine.
no,
I guess
listen,
that was me.
I talk about my
Yeah.
experience in
There's a lot of
Irvine
different-
being
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I mean,
Yeah.
there's could have gone a lot of different ways. I was
Yeah.
born in Oakland. It could have gone a lot of different
Yeah.
ways, you know, to actually spend, you know, the first 12 years of my life in Eugene, Oregon felt really lucky too. You know, I love Eugene. And then to come down here and be in, of all the places, to go to Irvine. And it felt safe until we were out. You know what I mean? It's a little less safe at times. But so I get it. But I know as much as I feel like I need to know about this system
Yeah.
to know that it's the game's rigged, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And I still think so many Americans don't understand that. You know, that's why they can keep people locked up for so long. That's why criminal justice reforms keep getting. We make progress here in California. I mean, we make a little progress and then it swings back the other way. I mean, we just had 2 big losses in this last election on reforms, and we had a progressive prosecutor. He lost his seat, so people are so worried about their property. So like it's very sad.
Yeah,
it's complicated.
I started doing some work
Yeah.
with the street poets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's kind of my other than weekends in jail in high school and right after.
Yeah.
My kind of introduction to hanging out with that population and doing kind of work with them, you know, like doing creative work, doing meditation work, stuff like that was how I got introduced to it through street poets. Those guys were amazing. You know, we're gonna have them on here for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, a bunch of those people from that time, you know. still kind of heroes for sure.
Well, I think it's complicated too, Lauren. I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And meaning, I think some people don't know.
Right.
I think that if you're raised in a house where they tell you, you know, there's certain things that happen and you're just raised that way, you don't know any better, right? And so I like to think that most people are okay with this system because they don't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I lived in LA for quite a while, and I played pickup basketball all over Los Angeles prior to the riots. Once the riots happened, I was a little limited to where I could go. But I've talked to these guys and been around this for years.
Yeah.
People going in and out of prison and having kids young and just that sort of socioeconomic structure of who gets what, right? And the way you're treated based on those areas. And playing in South Central forever, that's a different world, you know? And so I don't think people really get it. Yeah. I don't think they know.
Yeah. Well, proximity is, you know, Brian Stevenson is such an amazing leader on, you know, on all of this topic. And he says, in order to change the world, when meaning not just like the world as a whole, but really like the injustices, that, you know, you have to have proximity, you know, until you interact like
right.
Michael has. And I mean, you had your own experience being incarcerated, but then, you know, family and playing basketball and being at Street Poets, and until you have proximity, you just can't get it.
Right.
You can't really, you're not going to be committed. You might have a sense, but being around folks and really understand, having a total change of perspective. I remember one of the days, and I haven't spent as much time going into the prison as I would like. I wish I had more time because I would love to spend more time with folks inside, because the gratitude and the like resilience, and it's just.
I know a couple ways you can get there. I'm just kidding.
I just need to make more time so I can go in and visit our program. But I remember one of these days I went in with another organization called Defy Ventures. Have you heard of them?
Mm-mm.
They do
Defy Ventures?
Yeah, they do entrepreneurial training.
Oh.
And they're incredibly successful, and it's amazing what they do. And so they bring in entrepreneurs and business folks to go in and work with. It's really involved and work with guys inside, and they work on their business plan, and they do a whole pitch. They get feedback on their business plan, and then they do a pitch competition and win. And it was so amazing being in there. And
so they're doing it with people that are coming out of the system?
No, they bring volunteers to go into the prison. So they do the program. Well, they have an inside and outside now at this point, but this is the experience going in. So they do the training inside, and they bring in a busload of volunteers who are entrepreneurs and business folks who go in, and then they work with guys inside on their proposals. And then I went in for their pitch day, so it was like the last day, and the energy in the room was like off the charts. But they have this exercise they do where it's like you step up to the line. So they have all the volunteers on one side who are visiting, and all the guys, incarcerated guys, on the other side they're visiting, and they start to like say, if you were raised in a household with someone who was addicted to drugs, step up, to the line. If you went to college, step back from the line. And they do this to see and you just see folks, you can look down the line and who's stepping up and see what you have in common and where are the differences. And it is so powerful.
Yeah.
And the guy, and then you're face to face with the person in front of you. And when they ask, hopefully I don't get emotional, but when they ask this question of like, how old were you when you first got arrested? And they started, 20, whatever, 30, 28, and they walk back, and everyone's walking back. Well, mostly one side's over here because most of them hadn't been incarcerated, and the guys keep, walk back at age group. And the guy that I was standing face to face, Bobby, 7 years old. He was 7 years old.
In juvenile facilities?
He was 7 years old when he was arrested because his grandfather left a loaded gun in the house, and he played with it, and he accidentally killed somebody. I don't know if it was a brother or
Oh.
cousin. And how they treated this child is they put him in handcuffs and locked him up after this tragedy. Like, that was, how they treated him. Like, how horrifying that happened. It's punishment enough, and then and that began.
Think of what your kids were like at 7. You know what I mean?
Oh my Lord! And just the idea of not understanding that, right?
Right.
And
Right.
fuck whether or not right or wrong. We're not
Right,
even
it's not
talking
even-
about right or wrong, right?
Not even.
It's
And
it's heartbreaking.
And I'm standing there, we're face to face as everybody else is like stepping back from the line. And I'm like, you're not stepping back yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Come on, Bobby, step
I
back.
was just like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Just like tears. I'm like, I cannot believe this. And so one of the things that I tell people when I'm trying to explain, when they see somebody who's all has, lots of tattoos, and, they see this man, and like, they were children when their lives, when this all started. It's childhood trauma.
Sure.
So just think, and the last time I went in to visit our program, I asked all the guys in the room, each person, and out of, I think there was 12 of them, and 11 of the guys that I asked, how old were they when they first got arrested? They were all teenagers. So they're not even, their brains aren't even developed yet. I mean, look at what teenagers are. You can't.
Mine just developed.
I mean, you don't have the self-regulating
Right.
skills to
Right.
be like, I'm not going to react to this. You also, if you're growing up in certain areas and you're scared and you're like in a gang because you're trying to protect yourself and you don't have
So much of it's
all of those
environmental.
things. And so, and then that starts the whole cycle. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Was this real quick when
Yeah.
you're going to these systems? This is all with Give a Beat.
So the one program I described, Defy Ventures, is Defy. That wasn't
Is that
Give a
something
Beat. That's
you went
before,
in to?
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
when I was just starting Give a Beat. I went in with that program. I also went in another amazing program called the Compassion Prison Project, which is all about trauma.
Let me ask you a question.
And then I started that's when I was getting Give a Beat going.
So how do you just start Give a Beat? You know what I mean? Like, it just, that seems like an what we're doing seems sometimes like this overwhelming task of how you get something started and how you participate. Does it just is it literally?
I don't know. I guess this is what I was saying, is that the gift, or this gift, I really, let's find a better word, because I don't like that. It sounds like
just the
braggadocious,
ability.
But
How about just the ability?
I don't know. It's just a feeling like, this is where I need to put my time. Like, this is something that needs to be addressed.
Right, but do you fundraise for it, or do you start it and then fundraise? Like, how does that work?
Well, when I, so my old nonprofit, when I started, having these ideas about using the power of music to address the AIDS orphan pandemic and do something there, and I just kept thinking about it and talking about it and visualizing about it. It kind of, the universe put things together. I know it sounds whatever, but I think when you really do put your ideas out there, and they may sound crazy to some people.
We're sitting in one.
Which one?
This right here.
Okay.
This idea. When I first brought it to him, it was like,
Yeah.
what? So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, when you start, I think a lot of people don't want to put their ideas out loud, because maybe people, they'll create an expectation that they're going to do it, and they maybe will fail, or they don't have it all figured out yet, so they don't want to put it out there, or whatever. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah. It's all
No,
that.
absolutely.
And they
It's
just spin
fear.
ideas around in their head. But I will,
Especially if something you don't have training in, or you don't have any sort of real special skill set in, right? If you're just going to go do something because it sounds like a good idea, I'm going to do
There's
this
a lot of
thing.
imposter syndrome stuff. There's a lot of
Right.
like,
Right.
am I the right person even to talk about this? We talked about this with Luis, and when he was like, this is cool, and I was like, dude, you're the guy that should be doing this, not me.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, what are you talking about? Go do this. This is a good idea. You know, and I was like, but it took like people going, just keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you said, Lauren, if you just start doing it, it all makes sense, right? Like, this is not what we started off doing. I wanted to go do a podcast and talk to weird people in different places and just show everyone that we could all get along.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's really then my son struggled a bit, and I have some mental health issues, and Michael's got that in his life with people and other things, and so it became like, oh shit, this is what we do. You know what I mean? And as much as You might not even know it at times. That's what you do for your mental health, right? You're looking out for shit. And that's what you do to take care of Lauren, is to stay busy and look out and help people that need help, you know? And that's Give a Beat, right? So how does Give a Beat participate? You go into prisons, right?
Yeah. So
what's the
I'm just trying
process?
to think about how. Yeah, just the quick of it, or just how we got started. So I was running my old nonprofit, and it was really challenging, and I kept thinking, like, it's not supposed to be this challenging. Like, if I'm supposed to be doing this, it should be easier, you know? So what am I doing wrong? Maybe this isn't the right path for me. I feel like I can attract people who I can inspire people and attract people to do stuff. And, you know, there's certain things that just, I have sometimes can have, you know, creative ideas or ways to something that's a niche that's different than anybody else, what other people are doing necessarily, like to fill something that's, you know, do something that's not already being done. And not to say that I'm coming up with totally original ideas, but where I sit, so with like dance music and activism, like bringing those two things together, that, you know, that is something that there isn't a whole lot of. So I'm like, what can I do with this? And so when I was doing the work, I was working in South Africa and Kenya, and it was really challenging for a number of reasons that we could get into, but that's another conversation. It's a long conversation.
You were doing work in South Africa?
Yeah. South Africa and Kenya is where I worked
Probably
with
have to do like 3 of these, Lauren, just to follow you around the fucking planet.
So that's where I was doing, you know, work for 10 years. I mean, I was mostly doing it out of my apartment in West LA, but I had partners there. And
Gotcha.
And we were working on sustainable development projects with youth.
Gotcha.
I'm still in touch with our partner in Nairobi, and the work that they're doing there is still ongoing. But anyway, so as I was really struggling with this, like, this is not right. Like, I'm trying to address racial injustice and use music to make a really big impact. Not being an American from my apartment in West LA, working in South African, like, that's not, I don't know what I'm too green. This isn't I don't like learning on the job.
Yeah.
This is something for bigger NGOs and different kinds of organizations. This is not, you know, with all the best intentions, this is not where I need to be. And I started learning about, this is when I started waking up to incarceration. I first started learning about wrongfully incarcerated folks. I came across a website called the National Registry of Exonerations, which documents and collects data and codes all the different reasons why people end up in prison and be wrongfully incarcerated. And it's all, you know, it's a system, you know, it's and when I really realized that was so pervasive, I just started thinking, like, if this is happening to, if there's that many wrongfully incarcerated people, like, imagine how many people, like, did one little thing and they, you know, so it just opened my head. I'm like, if the system is this bad that you're going to take a totally innocent person and put him on death row, like, so that was my wake up to it. And so that's when I started to read. I mean, I watched, 13th was later, but I bought The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander and read that book. I went to a conference, and so, like, this is it. I need to move my energy from doing this work over here. And at that time, I started feeling really strongly about this. I got a phone call, again, the universe, and I got a phone call from a foundation out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, called the Fetzer Institute. Random call. Guy asked me, his name's Ted Joya, actually. I need to get back in touch with him. He's a jazz music historian.
I know him. I read his, like...
Oh, you read his Substack?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know him.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's who found us.
Okay.
Found me.
Wow.
Yep, and he was...
So what was the catalyst for his call to you?
So the Fetzer Institute that year was forming committees and they asked people to go out into the world and find people who were making big changes, but that had vision and could potential for making big changes, and spreading love. Their mission was to spread love, compassion, and forgiveness. So with those foundational values, what were people out there in the world doing that could maybe do more if they had some
And he found you?
support? And he just Googled
rad.
and I don't know, he found us.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And I got the call, and he said, "What would you do if we gave you some money, and what would that look like?" And I said, "Can I get back to you in like a year?" Because I wanted to put the old organization to bed, and I wanted to figure out, could I do something new? And that's how Give a Beat started.
Gotcha. And Give a Beat, how does Give a Beat participate in the system? Yeah.
Okay, so what we do is our mission is to use the power of music for healing and opportunity. And so by that we mean that healing and opportunity for folks impacted by incarceration and the system. And by that we mean from the healing side is, music and self-expression and empowerment and telling your own story and camaraderie and all the beautiful things that come.
So are they making music or are they listening to music?
They're making music. So, yeah. So we'll talk about. I'll tell you more about that in a second. And on the opportunity side, we talk about people learning skills. So they're learning how to produce. They're learning how to DJ.
Rad.
And that is something that can be utilized for. I mean, specifically DJing. Yes, it's we're not saying that somebody's going to become the next Tiesto, but people can DJ in their communities and get gigs and play parties and whatever it is.
So to have the skill when they get out to do this.
Skill and get paid. And,
Right.
and that's happening right now. Now, flash forward with our organization, people have gotten out who've come into our reentry program who are DJing and making money DJing.
Wow. How many people are involved in Give a Beat?
We have 8 staff, 6 teaching artists, a program director, and a community engagement
So teaching
manager.
artists are the people that are literally going in.
Yeah, we have amazing teaching artists.
Now, is it just in
Wonderful.
California?
Just in California. Yeah.
So they go
There's
in.
36 prisons, so
Yeah, there's plenty of work. You know what I mean?
so we're in 4 prisons right now.
Which ones?
We are in Norco, which is CRC,
Yeah.
California Rehabilitation Center. We are in CCI in Tehachapi. We are in Lancaster, and we just got a new contract for Wasco. It's in Kern County.
Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have do they go in, do they have to bring do you have people that are set up in those locations like all the time?
No,
or is it like
take-
once a month they come in and do that kind of thing?
The program is 6 weeks.
Oh.
It goes on for 6 weeks. Every session is 6 weeks, and each session is 4 hours. So we deliver this program. So there's 5 full sessions a year at each prison.
And so that comes, oh, wow. Okay, so they come in, let's say you go into Wasco or whatever it is, and they can sign up to do this?
So the prison takes care of, and they're called the community resource manager. They get the roster together, and people sign up, and so they handle all of that. So we just show up with the equipment and the curriculum, and it's amazing.
It is
How
amazing.
many people at a time?
12 is max.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you get 12 typically, or is it kind of?
It can probably the majority of the time. Yeah. And we have it's really in demand at CRC. People can wait up to 15 months to get in the
Really?
program. They love it. It's
I can't imagine.
our teaching artists are doing an amazing job.
So-
I mean, they are so down to earth and so real, and lots of training around, trauma informed, and I don't know, they're just really great at what
Are
they
the
do.
prisons seeing a difference with these people that are in with just the way they're behaving in there? Like, does it help?
We the prisons are also really like having our program there. So I don't know if we actually have data too
Gotcha.
much from the staff. The relationships are good though. So between our teaching artists and the officers, and they have all the
Right.
different ranks of people there. It's good. I mean, it's a tough, really tough environment to work in. There's, there's some egos.
Yeah, for sure.
there,
Huh?
for sure.
Sure.
But our staff navigate that really well, and
How do you guys fund it?
we have contracts with the state. So the
I was
state
gonna
of
say, do you write
California,
grants for it?
the state of California has a competitive RFP process for us to get the contracts to bring in the program.
Do you have to do that annually or something?
We used to do it. There's a program called the Arts and Corrections Program at the California Arts Council, and it's in partnership with the CDCR. We used to, those RFPs and those contracts used to last 2 to 3 years. The last one we did is only 11 months. So it's kind of sketchy because this one we just won is over in November, and we have to go through the whole process again. So, and given the states, given the concerns about funding from, who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Who knows? We did also just win another grant through, so the CDCR itself, the Department of Rehabilitation Services, they put out 2 new grant opportunities recently, and we just won another contract. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Is that what you're doing?
So, I mean, our biggest challenge is that our programs are in demand, and the organizational structure, we just don't, we need to grow our administrative, our leadership, our administrative capacity to manage all these programs. That's the challenge that we're having at Give a Beat.
Gotcha.
So we have a good problem. I mean, we have that our programs are in
Right.
demand and
Yeah.
attractive, and it's interesting, it's edgy, it's different. We have testimonials for days of how impactful this program is.
I would love to have those so we can
Yeah,
help with that as well.
yeah.
Get that word out.
Yeah.
That'd be
I mean,
awesome.
things that people say that it was the best class they've ever had in all their
Oh, that's awesome.
time to things I learned in this program I will take with me and have for the rest of my life. Like, you just can't, that's incredible.
So how long have you been doing it? I don't know if we...
4 years.
Was that how long Give a
4
Beat's been
years.
around?
Yeah, I think we've been teaching for maybe 5 years in the prisons. And then we also teach youth. We go into juvenile halls in LA as well.
Wow. Same process as far as grants and all that kind of thing?
That's with a different umbrella organization. They're called the Arts for Healing and Justice Network, and their partnership is with, and funding comes from the county.
It's
So they
interesting.
program us along with street poets and other organizations to go into the juvenile halls.
Are you getting the same sort of participation reaction from in the juvenile area, or is it?
It's really different.
Yeah, it is, huh?
Yeah, it's really different. And our teaching artists also just, that's a really tough environment to go into.
Really
Los Padrinos
tough.
Juvenile Hall, and those kids are really suffering.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very challenging. So, yeah, it's very different than,
For sure.
I mean, what I think, every prison is different, every facility is different, but some of those kids are they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
And whereas,
For sure.
some of the folks in the prison, if they're in the class, they've already embraced rehabilitate change and I was going to tell you earlier when I first went into that Defy program I told you about, and I left that program, and the motivation and sort of self-reflection and kind of how evolved people were in their own in their development, and just spending all this time thinking what they're going to do when they get out, and they're going to create this thing. There's so much, or taking classes and getting educated and getting their different degrees, etc. I just that day on the way home, I thought, before I went to bed, I was thinking about this on the way home, and then before I went to bed, I intentionally said, I want to have a dream tonight where the guys I met inside get out and run the government, and the people who are running our government go inside. And that would make a better world right now.
Holy cow.
Because, so, I mean, maybe I'm being naive or oversimplifying, but I think if you've gone through that, I can't even imagine, being locked up, separated from your family, having to sit every day with whatever you did to get in there, and having to forgive yourself. Because I know how when I think I screw up, it's horrible. It's a terrible feeling, And I can't imagine. So being able to overcome that, like what you have to do in your own brain and your heart and soul to overcome that, that's incredible. And I've always said that selfishly, I want to be around folks like that because I want to learn that.
Right.
Because we are headed into some really challenging times in this country and this planet, and people do not have the resilience like to get through it. And so,
I mean, resource. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a crazy time.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's really hard
Yeah.
to understand now where to focus because it's
yeah,
even within the country, but not just the country, it's globally. It's a hard time to wrap your head around where things start to get better.
and
You know?
yeah.
I actually thought that Give a Beat was a little older than that. That's really cool. I think when you and I talked,
I
for
mean,
some reason, I thought that you'd been doing it for longer.
well, we started in 2015, but we were working first with the youth program.
Gotcha.
We didn't go into the prisons till 2019.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you still go
okay,
in?
so but you have been doing it.
Yeah,
for
it's been
over
going
10
on a
years.
while. Yeah, yeah.
Like in some form.
Do you
Yeah.
now, do you fundraise?
We need to get our fundraising engine going for this like unrestricted funds that I'm talking about that we really, really need at the operational level. So, yeah. So that's.
Do you
when I
guys
get
ever
going.
do shows? Like music?
We
As a fundraiser
we need
kind
to
of thing?
do more. We need to do more. It's
Yeah.
It is an area where we haven't really put the resources in to get to do these really shows, and it absolutely makes sense. I mean, this is what we do. We
Right.
do
Right.
music. We need
Right.
to have music shows and make them fundraisers, and we just
It's
we
a hard
haven't
thing to
done it enough.
organize, though. But it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and I think we get scared that it's just going to suck all our capacity. But then we need to do them.
Yeah.
We need to get that going.
We want to participate.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We want to participate,
Mhm.
and we'll get. We're not on here. We'll talk about it and see what
Okay.
makes the most sense for all of us. You know what I mean? But yeah, we want in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
Throw a party in Orange County.
Yeah, and we'll put a hoodie together or shirts or something, and
Mhm.
design something that's different than what we do that stands out a little bit. That'll be for Give a Beat.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
that'd
it's
be
just
great.
50% in perpetuity as long as it goes on, even if you leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
Yep.
I would love to be able to go in and do a program like that. I would. I think it would be really eye-opening. I think it would be really hard because there's a lot of stories in there, having been to jail and different know people that are just they're upsetting, right? There's a lot of people that are just in that system and not being treated very fairly, right? So I think it would be really hard because you get to walk out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And having been somewhere where you don't get to walk out, walking out is really cool. And so I think that it would be, the thing that you were doing, the street posts and all that, that's
Mhm.
amazing. Like I would love to
We can connect with them.
participate in something like that as well.
Mhm.
I think maybe even with youth.
Mhm.
I think that's my son struggles, and so I think that for me makes sense.
Mhm.
I can connect to that right now in my
Mhm.
life. But
Yeah.
do you see just doing? Is this it? Is it Give a
No,
Beat?
it's not
It's
it.
not, is it?
It's not.
I knew it wasn't. I knew the answer to that. Are you guys getting cold?
I am.
Okay, throw me my hoodie. I don't really care if you have one or not, but didn't I bring one out there?
I mean,
That is so not where I pointed. Luckily, I'm a superior athlete.
Oh my God.
I knew that the answer was no, it's not.
I think that's what it's like. I don't think my place is to run an organization's daily operations. I think I'm supposed to create new stuff. So
Gosh, that's so rad. I know exactly what you mean.
So I would like to replace myself as the executive director of Give a Beat. That's what I want to happen.
Looking
So,
for someone. Do you
I need
actively look?
$100,000 to hire an executive director.
Right. And the right
Or more.
person, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I always want to be a part of it.
for sure.
But I
don't
don't-
think you're going to have a choice on that.
I
You know what
just
mean?
don't think it's where I should be putting my efforts. It's not my strength. I wouldn't say. I mean, I'm managing it, but someone would be better in this position. And
Isn't that that's a really it's a great realization, right? People think they can do everything there. It's really cool when you meet somebody that goes, there's people that can do this better than me, but I know how to start these things. Like, I know what needs to be done. I know this, but I always refer to it as like the confetti in the parade, right? I like the parade. I think it's fun. But like in running a business, right? But the billing and all this paperwork, that's the confetti that makes the parade happen. I'm not good at that. I'm good at the parade.
And,
you know what I mean? And it sounds like I just want the fun stuff, but the other stuff's hard too.
Yeah, and also
There's skill sets.
We deliver services. That's not that's not my background. I mean, someone who went to school for, who got their master's in social work or whatever. Like, there's people who are going to have more. I mean, we have consultants and other people to help. So we can do a good job at this, but there's people who are better suited for this position, and I think it's very typical to have a founder. Just because I came up with the idea and got it off the ground doesn't mean, I think this happens. I know this happens a lot with nonprofit organizations.
Sure.
A founder.
It happens with businesses.
You have to go through. Yeah, you get it off the ground. You go through this transition. You transition somebody else in. And then I can go do the next thing. So when you talk about how many different issues there are to be an activist around, I want to go where,
That's what I
feel
meant.
like.
That's what I was asking earlier, right? Like just on the just taking care of myself side. Like, how do I? There's so many things going on. There's so many angles, so many places to point the gun, right? And just like go attack and try to help, right? And I just did a costume change. I'm like the Diana Ross of podcasting. The next song I'll be in a dress.
Right.
So yeah, I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Totally. I've done it with different business stuff,
Yeah.
and just the okay, it works. Now what?
Yeah.
Wee. Let's move on.
And one of the aspects of Give a Beat that I've never really been able to get off the ground is the advocacy side. So I mean, I love the programming that we do, but I also feel that policy change is needs. That's where it's at. We can we can get people out or stop them from change policy so they don't go in the first place, or they have shorter sentences or whatever it is, or have less barriers when they get out so they can get their lives together, because the barriers are, it's insanity.
That's a crazy mountain, though.
Yeah.
That's a big mountain, right?
And I'm not saying I can change policy, but
No.
But sometimes it's a few thousand votes, I don't know. I'm just saying that I'm feeling there's other things that could use my effort around.
Well, there's certain people that go out and do, and they're doers, right? And we said it before, and sometimes those people do change policy, and sometimes they affect things that help to change policy. You know what I mean? And I think that, like Michael always talk about like this shit. Like, I'm kind of the dreamer of this whole thing, right? Michael has to level me out sometimes, but I believe shit like that, and I believe people are like they can do shit, and I think you're one of those people. I do. I think that you just keep plugging away and doing it. I think the hard part for a lot of it now is just staying positive enough to do it. It's hard to stay positive through some of this stuff.
I'm not positive at all.
Yeah, well, I think you're a little more than you think you are.
I think so.
You're internally, what's happening in here might not, but what you're outward, what you're emoting, what you're doing is. So I get it. I get it. I feel the same way. I really do.
I just don't know how to do anything else, and I'm just not going to do it. Like,
don't.
I'm very. If we were to, and we'll do that, we can have this conversation offline later. But if we really were to talk about the state of things, I'm not very positive about that. However, it doesn't stop me for a second from doing. I'm not going to give up. I mean, that's just no way. I mean, if we don't have that choice.
I don't think. I don't think you have a choice, Lauren.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
there's no
I
choice.
see certain people sing or play guitar, and I go, oh, that person did not have a choice. This is just what they do.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think you have a choice, Lauren. So, and that's a good thing.
I'm glad. I'm
It's
really
a good
grateful.
thing.
I don't have to wonder,
Right.
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? I've
Right.
always said that. I'm really, you know, I'm lucky that way. I discovered what I feel like I'm supposed to do on this planet, and that's what I do. And sometimes, you know, with the work that Give a Beat does, the thing that does feel really positive and impactful is that even in the darkness, you know, and it breaks my heart that people are getting out of prison and they're coming out to this shit right now. Like, that's just like, they didn't get to participate. They didn't, you know,
They didn't help build
they're
this.
not responsible for this. But but just like helping, providing some tools and ways that people can connect with their own creativity and have like moments of liberation. Like that's hope for me. Like that's good. It's like
And you've been-
it's like, yeah, just when they're suffering and there's that, you know, what we can help provide those moments is I don't know, that's
I
pretty
think
good
you got to
shit.
be seeing them now. You've been
Yeah.
doing this long enough now, right? That you're actually seeing people come out, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, we're working on that. We're working on creating a pipeline, like when people get out and get in touch with us,
That
so
was
that
the
we
next
can
question,
connect them to resources and things like that. So that's another piece that I really want to focus on. So that's where I'm like, again,
So
get
do you
somebody
take-
to run the day so I can do this next phase. I really
Right.
want to work with the alumni that come out of the prison and like and do that, more of that. We do have an alumni program. We do have a reentry program. It's just small and it can't take a lot of our bandwidth right now. So
is it affecting sort of the recidivism about the whole thing? I mean, when these people are coming out in this program, are you seeing that they're able to hit the ground and run a little bit?
I think
You think it helps?
I think having a mentor helps incredibly. I think
for sure.
yeah, it's I think there's more and more resources for folks reentering, but there's also a lot, still so many barriers.
Yeah.
I mean, how ridiculous is it that you can't get hired? I think, you know, like there's so many restrictions. I think there's like 40,000 restrictions, like cumulatively across the country.
Oh, really?
Preventing people from certain jobs. Like you can't go into like elder care. Like how would you not?
If
Like,
you
what a
you mean as a
beautiful job.
felon?
Yeah, as someone with a record, you know, I don't have all of those stats. We can
Right.
that. We can share that with people. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, from not being able to, you still have to, you know,
I think
people do background checks and discriminate against you for jobs and housing and school and all
I
of
think
those
what-
things. And I mean, it's ridiculous. You've already done your time, probably too much more time than was needed. You probably learn whatever lesson you need to learn in a shorter time. And then you get out with the hunger and self-reflection that I was talking about earlier, only to be you know, have the stigma and have this.
that's why people can't get out of it. You know, but I
Yeah.
think as
think
far
it's
as the
changing now.
statistics and what you just said, I think that that's what we'll do is we'll put this up on our website
Yeah.
and then we'll put a link to Give a Beat and then we'll just maybe
Yeah.
some links, sort of almost
Yeah.
blog form of different
Sure.
statistics and different things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
whatever you can get to me or Michael or whatever
Yeah,
would
sure.
be really helpful. I mean, just
Yeah.
so that people can understand it.
Yeah.
You know, again, we talked about, I don't think some people have any experience with people that have been locked up or
Yeah.
anything, so they just don't get it. And if you don't have that, you don't get it.
And then people will be able to support you by purchasing
Yeah.
a hoodie, and it'll go to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now,
Sounds
can
good.
people
Yeah.
just, let's say somebody went on the website and looked in there, like, oh, that's rad, but I don't want a hoodie, but I want to donate. Can they,
Yeah.
do you have is there on your
Our
website?
website is giveabeat.org.
Right.
So
Perfect. Giveabeat.org. And
Yeah.
you can go on there and actually donate.
of course.
Yeah.
Listen
There
up.
has to be a giant donate button, right?
listen
So
up.
Of course.
everyone.
Every
wasn't
page has
sure.
a donate button.
Right.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Sign
That's
up
rad.
on our mailing list. Follow us on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll follow you on Instagram. I'm just learning Instagram. So
Yeah.
I'll follow you on it.
Yeah, well, Instagram we might need to leave soon.
Yeah, right?
We'll be creating
You
a
got
blue
Blue
sky
Sky?
pretty soon. Yeah.
What is that?
It's not Meta.
What is Blue Sky, though? Who does it?
It's a public, you know about it?
Yeah. I
Public
mean, a little
company.
bit.
I mean, it's not Meta.
It's the next one until it's bad.
Yeah, it's not as like.
I think it's a Swedish company.
Yeah, I don't think it's as well designed, and it doesn't have the same kind of network of like that those other ones have. So it feels a little bit empty-ish, but it's a good alternative.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it'll get
comparable
there.
to Twitter as far as
Yeah, it's more like
format.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
just sort of direct communication, like just kind of
Mm-hmm.
gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw someone that I know from high school that just put it on there that they're going to Blue Sky.
Yeah, I
I was
have
like-
a personal Blue Sky. Yeah, a lot of people.
I
are
saw
moving.
yours on there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the
I'm
person I'm thinking about.
Maybe.
It was someone else.
There's
Wait
gonna
a
be
second.
There's going to be some competitor. Facebook's going to be really hard for people to get off of, but there's going to be something soon. I mean, did you see? Okay. This is conversation for later.
Yeah.
So
We'll do that
how are we
later.
doing here?
I think we're doing good. I mean, we're at
Yeah.
an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? My only concern was that lighting wise.
Yeah, it's gonna
Um,
it's starting to drop a little bit, but it's okay.
Lauren,
We're almost done.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
just kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan. You know, Michael, I talk what you're doing, like
Thank you.
yeah,
Always.
well, 100%. Like my
Yeah.
mom was a doer. You know what I mean, and what she did and everything. And I used to tell her that all the time. You're just a do-gooder, just sarcastically, but she is, and you're doing good stuff, and I love you, and I think it's rad, and I'm glad that we could come and sit and talk to you about this, and I'm looking forward to doing a hoodie and participating in this thing. You know what I mean,
Thank
and
you.
understanding it more,
Yeah.
and sharing it with people to understand, because you don't know until you know. You know, and some people know, you know, whether it's a relative or yourself or what that system looks like in there, and it sucks. You know, Michael can tell you. I'm just kidding. I just blame you. You get a gray beard if you've done bad things.
Yeah.
Look
I
at-
guess I
Yeah, you're fine. You're like
I
an
shaved-
angel.
yeah, no.
You and me both. I couldn't grow a beard, so
I
Look,
shaved
it's-
mine.
no, please. And for the record, your chin looked fine. You look beautiful. And
I wasn't talking about my chin. I was talking about the neck.
You're like, what?
oh, it's
kidding.
Michael's chin. That's what you're talking.
When I was in there?
No. I asked you about the beard once, and you were like, you know,
Oh,
just fucking cover.
yeah.
You know, I just rock my double chin. I'm in.
So
Double chin, the turkey neck.
the last thing I'll say is that so last night the fire aid benefit was on.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know about that? So I just think I left that out of the story, but you know that was another really big thing that happened when we were in high school was Live Aid,
Right.
and that was
Right.
so it was like the combination. You know, when I went, I had the experience of going out of the country, and then Live Aid happened, and that was huge. And we had We Are the World, right? That was all music, using music to bring people
Sure.
together. So for to address these huge issues, so that was always that was always there. So
Interesting.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
I'm so I'm,
That makes total sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like what it was just really transformational for me at that time, and that was always in me. And then finally the epiphany happened when I got into house music, and I saw, well, like,
Good
what
for
do
y-
we do with this music? It has this power, brings people together on the dance floor, all walks of life, this very freeing feeling. It's like the hippie movement, but it's in a club.
Yeah, right.
Um,
But good for you too. Like
And
music's
that
been a
was-
huge part of our
yeah,
lives.
yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
You know, huge part of life. But I never thought to use that superpower for good. Right? Like she's using that superpower for good. It was just cathartic, right? It's just music. It's just therapy, kind of, you know?
yeah.
But good for you. And yeah, Live Aid. What a great idea, right? Like the idea of using music to raise money and do all that stuff. I know it's gone on forever and people
Right.
do it forever, but at your age at that time to like trigger into it and go, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it just
pretty
was.
impressive.
It was just there at that time in me, so I think I carried it, and then I just luckily, stars aligned, and I got to experience that music culture and that birthed this whole. That helped me find my path, and it was a
Yeah.
overwhelming time for people. The times that kind of witnessed me kind of going through that awareness, that
Yeah,
awakening.
it's great.
And it really was the catalyst for
Well, it's
that work that I do today.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's nice to see that you still do it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
people try it and they get discouraged and go, nonprofit's hard,
Yeah.
and this stuff's
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get discouraged and just kind of, well, whatever. But, like I said, impressive, good for you, and I can't wait to help out a little bit if we
Okay.
can. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Thanks for being part of the neighborhood. Welcome to the neighborhood, Lord.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome to the neighborhood.